Friday. Welcome to Aggressively Healthy on this beautiful July 4th. Michael, Marco, Marcus.
Happy birthday, America.
The three M's. I mean, we're not just doing M&M's. We're doing M and M and M's. So a couple questions.
M cubed.
Number one, you guys excited for the weekend or what?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we haven't had a pump pod
In a while.
in a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't think we've done a tank, tight T-shirt.
Yeah, I've never done a tight T-shirt.
No, never done that. Or I've never done a tank. But listen, here's a couple crazy things in researching that I found. So $802 billion by 2028 will be spent on the supplement industry. $824 billion in 2022 were spent on the food service industry. So, $54 billion in supplements, $802 billion by 2028 is what they're predicting. The food industry, 2022, did $824 billion. So let's think about that. Supplement world, $800 billion. Food service industry preparation world, $800 billion. Do you think both of these causes are worth the same value in market share?
What do you mean?
Like, should we be spending $800 billion on food prep services, meaning not buying the food and cooking yourself, or delivery? However it needs to be prepped, served, and consumed is the food prep industry. Versus $802 billion on supplements. Like, shouldn't we spend a little bit more maybe trying to figure out the root cause of what our illnesses are coming out to be rather than supplementing to fix our food problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to evaluate it based on, are those leading indicators of the outcome that we want to see happen? So let's just say the supplement industry goes up by 10% year over year of the next 5 years.
Right.
Food expenses go up, whatever. But then you see all-cause mortality. You see major medical afflictions start to decline. And I don't know if you can actually prove causation, but let's just say like, oh, well, it's a reasonable hypothesis that people are taking care of themselves, eating better food, supplementing with the right things that are actually, what they need.
Right.
And now we see all this, the obesity rates go down, cancer rates go down, heart attack,
yeah.
Okay, at least there's some proximity of causation.
Now, stick with me on this thought process for 1 second. If I were to spend $100 on my farming and food prep, and I did it the right way, and I churned the soil, I made the soil nutrient rich, I grew vegetables and meats in an environment where they had the right vitamins and minerals at $100. I'm assuming my supplemental supply of vitamins and minerals to that diet should be of less because it's purely an add-on.
Yep.
So if I invested more in that initial food industry, I should have to invest less in the add-ons. So do you think it's plausible if we are still spending $800 billion on the food service industry, if we put some of that money into actually growing crops that have the right supplemental values of vitamins, minerals, and healthy, and push those products rather than the nutrient failing middle of the aisle type chips and candy and shit like that?
Oh yeah, I mean,
we would reduce cost spend on the supplement world and increase our food value.
I mean, just think of how inherently flawed the food industry is.
Right.
Where they get subsidies, where they get kickback, where they like all these things from the whole food chain supply is inherently flawed, right? Like there's no benefit of growing grapes as opposed to corn so
and the reason I like talking about this is I get in a jam a lot in my office because people walk in and they think it's going to be that purely organic, holistic approach. And then I recommend like supplements and vitamins, and I might recommend a pharmacologic med, who knows? And the whole point of it is it would be really nice to be able to say to somebody, hey, just go eat your spinach and your apple and your banana. But we kind of can't unless something changes. So the jam I find myself in is me and you have consistently been grounded in like foundational health, meaning the right foods, the right exercise, the right foundational medicine. Can we keep promoting purely a whole food diet without supplementals unless the food industry changes, or we have to keep going down the added supplemental value?
I think of it in terms of the end user has to, if they're going to like change their life, and let's just use an extreme example where they have to eat better, they have to train, they haven't done any of these things. To ask them to go from 0 to 100 day one is a tough ask.
Yeah.
And you have to create some sort of hierarchy of needs for that individual so they can get momentum on their side and whatever the biggest rock is, while reducing friction in all those other aspects of his life. So, for example, we know he needs more nutrient-dense foods.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to cook. He doesn't know how to shop. He doesn't know how to meal prep. He doesn't know any of those things. So is it now a better decision from you or from us to say, you got to take a multivitamin?
Right.
You're literally not going to be able to eat as much spinach as you need.
Yeah.
Nor do you even know how to cook it, enjoy it, whatever else. So let's just supplement, not just the nutrient, but the behavior of of eating properly right now until you get your legs under you.
Yeah.
And I think that is a justifiable way of looking at supplementation, as well as for him to create the awareness around what he needs to change and what he needs to focus on. Because maybe all his mental horsepower is getting up at 5 a.m. To come to the gym.
Yeah.
And like, if it was another thing, is like, oh man, I got to figure out how to eat spinach.
Yeah.
It's like, just take the multivitamin.
Take the pill.
Yeah.
Right. And in that version of it, I think it's completely appropriate. And I want to kind of harp on that a touch, because in my office, and I'm sure when you sit down with people, they view anything that they're taking in like a pill form or an injectable form or whatever as something abnormal. But we have always been founded in medicine that's based on what you're supposed to have at baseline. And really a lot of what we give back to you in this arena is what you should already have.
Correct.
Your tank's just empty. So for people wondering, like, well, Mike, we're saying eat well, but then we're saying, well, take the supplement as an added. But yeah, we're giving you back what might not be in the food. And as we just discussed, our food industry is flawed with nutritional values. We end up eating things without the right nutrition. So we just want to give you that back. It's not synthetic. It's not, artificial. It's just something you need, and we need to refill those tanks. Now, being the basics in nature, if you were to pick like 3 things that you say everybody might think about doing as a launch pad into health, what would be those first 3 things? Like adjustable things in their life. They wake up in the morning and they do 3 things different right out of the gate. What would you recommend?
The first obvious one to me would be sleep. Because I don't know anyone who's ever said, man, I got too much good sleep this week. I don't know anyone who's done that, right?
Yeah.
And we all know that no matter what you face on a daily demand, it's way worse when you don't have sleep on your side. Even if you don't get a lot, if you get less than what you're used to, your day is always worse.
Yep.
Not to mention there is a abundance of data and research and literature pointing to all the bad effects of having lack of sleep. And again, like one of those equal opposite scenarios, how much good comes from having adequate sleep.
Yeah.
So sleep is the number one thing that I think everyone can change, because there's shift workers and young parents and stuff. Like there's definitely a reason why, but the focus should be on how do I reclaim my sleep.
Now, we're going to get to number 2 in a second. I want to chime in with some medical data that support that. It is not published. It is not publishable. It is purely in my own practice that I have found this, but I am willing to say it out loud because the trends are intense. The better your sleep, there are biologic markers I track every 3 months that reveal insulin resistance, insulin sensitivities, and then IGF-1 levels. The people we have that wear their Oura rings, there has been direct correlation to their IGF-1 and their Oura sleep scores. And it's really trackable. And then you extrapolate from that, their fasting insulins and hemoglobin A1Cs are directly related in sequence to those improvements in sleep and IGF-1 levels. What would be your second thing?
Dietary, let's try to cut out the confusion about dietary practices. Eat fruits, vegetables, lean meats, single ingredient carbohydrate sources, and nothing else. Just for a week, just to see what happens.
Yep.
There's no calorie limit. There's no macro configuration. It's just eat single ingredient whole foods that you already like.
Yeah.
And just see what happens. Whether it allows you to think better, sleep better, have less GI distress, whatever it may be.
So think about how fucked up we are in the United States. If you told somebody you need to start eating whole foods, veggies, and fruits alone, you're telling them something in their mind. They're like, I got to add this to my day. Think about conceptually how messed up that is. I have to add this to my day. All you're telling them to do is eliminate the fluff. Get rid of the nonsense. Go to the store, buy a chicken breast, buy a whatever the fuck they're called, of broccoli. What is it, a head or flower broccoli?
Yeah.
A floret. You can get florets. Some asparagus, some spinach, some cauliflower, whatever. Cook it and eat it. So imagine how we have to tell people to do that. That's simplistic because they've been taught that the ultra-processed Dorito is actually real food, right? So to remove those processed foods, in their mind, it's an addition. It's a really perverse relationship with food that we've developed in the United States, and it's purely the educational system because there's no education on nutrition. Randomly at the gym, not randomly, but you guys have a lot of young kids that come work out in the 7 to 15-year-old range. And they sometimes think I'm weird, but I'll catch them every so often and just be like, hey, what do you eat for protein? Some kids look back at me and they're like, cheeseburgers or hamburger, chicken. Other kids literally look at me and they're like, who?
Yeah.
And I'll just walk away. Now, they don't know what that experience is telling me, but to me, it's educating on the statistics that these kids really don't know what's going in their body. So I think that's where it truly starts. But it's a re-education system that we need to employ. What would you say is number 3?
Activity. So I don't really have, I know a lot of people poo-poo on walking. Like walking's not exercise. Walking shouldn't be counted. Walking is probably the most valuable tool to someone to get healthy or preserve their health.
Yeah.
Especially as you age. Like you just think from the fundamental problem that exists when you can't walk. Like what does your life look like?
Terrible.
Right. So even if it's just the practice of walking, if that's how you want to reconcile that problem, walk as much as you can. And like, not to mention, you can be productive while you walk. You can get vitamin D while you walk. You can be in a conversation, meaning you have social connections while you walk. There is so much benefit from the act of walking and general activity. But that would be my, baseline.
Yeah.
The other thing is like, make sure you enjoy what you do.
Right.
Like if you don't like to lift weights, like, yes, you might want to sneak a day in, but if you're a Pilates freak, do Pilates.
Yeah.
As long as you're going to do it for the next 25 years, God bless, go for it. It's the right thing. It's perfect.
And that conversation's quite pertinent because some people say in my arena that don't want to experience a gym floor, but say, one guy, I like to ride my bike. Another lady's like, well, I like to do walks in the park. Another lady said, I love hiking. I love water skiing. Like there's versions of exercise you can do that don't have to be directly related to the gym. But what we're also saying is kind of deconstruct that a touch where the gym is going to give you the value. So you might not like the baked chicken with just salt on it. But if you know once or twice a week that's going to afford you the ice cream cone, then go do the lift, even if it kind of sucks. One day of a little bit of discomfort, but then it buys you the opportunity to keep doing your yoga, your Pilates, your walks in the park for the next 10 years. Why wouldn't you do that? But it's a very hard thing to see. Now, we talked about it earlier, but I added biking into my weekly thing. And it's been an interesting experience because on the days I bike, I'll ride here. It's 0.8 miles. I ride back. That's 0.8 miles. Shower, ride to work and back, which is here. So all in all, that's like close to a 4-mile day, right? What is it?
3.2.
3 point something, right? So that's a lot of added caloric burn.
Yeah.
And I started to track it on my MyZone, and it's considerably changed my weight through the week. Added things like that. Are you in support of? against, or a version of that for anybody that exists might be walking to the bus stop, to the car, park far away. Things like that that can add to your day. What would you suggest?
Coming back to the statement, I'm not 100% in agreement with it, but saying that someone should eat less and do more,
Yep.
I don't know about that. What I do know is that more activity can afford you more food.
Yep.
And I think that could be a really good thing.
Yeah.
Because unless we want to talk about gaining weight, specifically adipose tissue, you can certainly do less, and then therefore you'd have to eat less.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I think someone who's already active, not only finding a productive extra activity, but something like that struck me when you were telling me about this is that you were happy to tell me you started by you were having fun with this new activity, which then brings in this whole idea of novelty and joy to physical activity, which most people think, again, in punitive terms of when they think like, oh, I got to go to the gym.
Right.
No, I don't feel that way. Like I love going to the gym because it's also very social for us.
Right.
I can also appreciate someone who's like, I don't really want to go to the gym. It's like, great, you can get all the benefits you need with 2 30 to 45-minute sessions a week.
Yep.
And go on with the rest of your life.
Yeah. Just put something.
And get all that benefit. Like you don't have to do what we do.
And I think the amazing thing is the punishment to your soul of paying health insurance, and every time you stroke that check, which they quietly were like, you know what, people, we do a new thing. It's called direct deposit. You don't even have to see the money before it leaves your envelope, right? Like in your brain, you don't even know it exists. They just steal it. But imagine if instead of you stroking that check and being like, fuck, this sucks, but I'll do it. I got to pay. Why not pay the time or the money, and instead of suffering through writing a huge check, write a little bit lesser of a check, go to a good healthcare facility, and you never have to stroke those deductible checks. Your premium probably ends up going down because the benefits of preemptive healthcare are going to save you on the back end no matter what, right? So doing the uncomfortable, you're going to end up doing it whether you like it or not. Because I guarantee if companies that have employees under their health programs started sending the actual dollars in green bills to the person's house in an envelope, and then that person had to reseal that and send it to the insurance company, I'll venture to say that experience with what you are getting out of the insurance company becomes very different because you will start to expect something for your dollar. It's like the gym membership. Healthcare stole a page out of box gym marketing. They said, watch this. Hold my beer. You guys can do a $19.99 trick per month that nobody will notice. I'll do one better. I'll do like a $2,000 a month that no one will notice. Watch this. Bang. And you know what I give them? Nothing.
Yeah.
Enough on that. What do you think about purely the data that just came out? Cold plunges promote less fat loss. So like you do a cold plunge, your workout is significantly worse. Any comments? Because I got a ton.
Yeah, I think this is where there was good intent behind cold plunging and that whole movement, say about 10 years ago. And to me, it was more of an exercise in for your mind than anything else. So the benefit that I looked at from a cold plunge experience was, how do I remain calm in an uncomfortable situation? You know, like it was really about pushing your parasympathetic system in times of duress, which is highly applicable to your life. How do you calm down when like you'd rather not, right? So as it pertained to hypertrophy or physical fitness, I never saw much benefit, or at least I never gave it much weight. And when the research came out that, oh my God, cold plunges can actually blunt hypertrophy responses, which makes total sense, because for hundreds of years we knew that it was great for anti-inflammatory purposes. And if you thought that it was going to be beneficial for hypertrophy, then you don't understand the mechanisms behind hypertrophy, which is you create inflammation in tissues and then you like whatever. So
it's a lack of science knowledge.
So for now, when it's saying like it might not help with fat loss, I'm just not surprised. Yeah. But I never looked at it being like, you know what you need for fat loss? Cold plunging. Yeah. Because it comes down, and we'll say this over and over again, how many calories are you taking in versus how many calories are you coming out? there's four major players in calories going out. There's only really one major player with calories coming in. And where do ice buckets and ice plunges, where does any of that fit into the time-proven schematic? It doesn't.
You want to know what the equivalent of a cold plunge would be? We could do the same thing. We'll just hire somebody every morning to break in your house unexpected. Just hold a gun right to your face. You open your eyes, you'll get the same adrenaline rush, right? Fuck the cold plunge. Let's just do a fear plunge. If you don't understand the concept, it finally came out. The data's starting to go. So now I can use my voice a little more because the cold plunge crew out there in the world is fucking aggressive. Like, you say cold plunges aren't perfect. It's like they'll burn my house down. But I have a question. If you want to conserve energy, are you going to sit still or move real fast? You're going to move real fast, right? If you want to burn calories. To generate what?
Heat.
Okay. So when you generate heat, your body does things. It is more metabolically active, right? If you want to slow down, slow your metabolism, hibernate style metabolism, what do? You get real cold and you go to sleep for the winter. So imagine...
What's the medical procedure that gets you really cold in a worst case scenario?
Death?
No, like if you were on life support.
Oh, yeah, they cool
you. Why?
Yeah, so your cells...
Because it basically like puts you in hibernation.
Yeah, so you don't metabolize energy.
Correct.
Right.
It's not costly.
Correct.
So
you
that
don't...
your body can heal and all that.
That's
whatever.
exactly right. So the cold plunge is to get that significant stun of your system to get an adrenaline rush. It gets confused a little bit because it does pump your energy up in the morning the same way a gun to your face would.
Yeah.
But over time, that cold exposure will do detriment. And all you need to do, we don't need to do any research because animals are animals. Mammals process shit almost in the same way. Look at a polar bear. Are polar bears super lean, jacked up, ripped? No. They're thick fat, slow movers. They can sprint, but they're slowly over time.
Very few times.
They never exert fully, right? And they have a thick layer of blubber to handle the cold. Because in that environment, they are going to grow more fat. That's what they're promoting their body to do. Go look at like a cheetah on the plains of the Sahara in 100-degree weather. It's thin, low fat, lean, fast moving, hot environment, not building excess fat. But if you took a cheetah and threw it in Antarctica, over time, what do you think that cheetah would learn to do? Build a layer of fat. Evolution. So the more you expose yourself to cold, whether you like that initial shock or not, you cannot be uninformed enough and not well read enough to know that over time, if your body's exposed to cold, it will start to express an adaptation to try to retain fat. For a split second of shivering, yes, if you're about to die, you'll burn some calories. But over time, in an environment like that, just like in Alaska and Siberia, these people aren't lean, right? They want to keep fat on their body, and that's what your body will train itself to do,
right?
Whether you want it to or not. Which leads us back to our huge call to arms on like mix a weightlifting with a hit, because that hit is just a constant cold plunge. You're just constantly a little bit stressed out. Then your body's like, well, I might not see that nutritional source again, but I got to keep my heart rate here. And you get in this conservative mode, which is why those cold exposures hit and things like that, cortisol reactions, and you actually get fat retention. So how do you, throughout your career in this field, how have you stayed grounded? Because you've never really expressed an opinion on like, do this every day or do that every day. You've always been like, yeah, for you, that might work. And for you, that might work.
I think I had the advantage of, because I came from a different world than exercise, a traditional exercise science background. So when I was learning things, I was like reading probably entry-level textbooks that were very like, this is how your metabolism works. Right. This is what we know. So I took that maybe as the holy grail of like, okay, black and white, like your body works on these principles. And because of those principles, I kept in such high regard. I was like, unless something is overwhelming in terms of contrasting or undermining what I believe to be true,
right,
from how physiology, neurology, and biology worked, I shouldn't give it much credence.
Right.
Right. So like, again, if I like frameworks to think about things. So if I know the body, expends energy in these 4 ways and it can only really take in energy in one main way, where does any of this fit? And what are the consequences to those variables or those principles if I leverage a certain activity, tactic, protocol, whatever it may be? So I never really was concerned. Like I always was curious, like what if I'm missing something? But then when you actually, and that's why I'm a big believer in learning by experience. Like I'll go take a course. Like I took a Wim Hof course. I go take, when I was doing massage therapy a lot, I took courses and I found some to be bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's only because I went and tried to test my own beliefs were I able to either confirm or deny what I believe to be true. And then your practice, and this is the whole thing about like, so everyone wants to tout like research-based practice. Well, there's also practice-based research that you develop with thousands and thousands of people over, now it's almost 20 years or over 20 years that I've been doing this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So just because a study says this, like, is it applicable?
Yeah.
Is it like, I don't know, maybe the 10 people that they did the study on is a poorly designed study. The 10 people aren't my people.
You know what's cool about being in this version of medicine and science and healthcare is like I can say with huge asterisks, like some of the things I'm saying are anecdotal opinion, but it's all based off data and results. And what's going to be cool is I'm starting to have enough data that I'll be able to show people real live, like the ashwagandha thing and the SHBG. I just had another bunch of them because I've started going back now that has triggered thoughts in my head on people that triggered me to think ashwagandha, looking deeper into the SHBG world, and it's becoming more evident. Now, you go online, you're not finding that, right? You come here, you're hearing it. It's our opinion. If you like what we're saying, great. If not, there's data to argue everything, right? But the whole point is everything needs to be catered to the person. So if you're watching a commercial and it's like, Rinvoq, use it for your disease. It's like, how do you know you even have the disease? How do you know it's the right thing to use? How do you know anything?
Yeah.
Now take that to the cold plunge. So Johnny Smith sitting on his couch, 280, hasn't moved in 3 years, tired, he's eating his Doritos, last hot dog goes down, his wife's upstairs screaming at him to get to bed, commercial pops on. Cold plunge, increase your awareness of your surroundings and instantly lose weight. What do you think Johnny Smith is doing? Buying the cold plunge. Then Johnny Smith is cold plunging. You think the cold plunge is going to help Johnny Smith? But that's just an example. You cannot use what we think as common knowledge out there for the common folk, because if it's the same as if we see an oil commercial. I don't know if it should be 1040 weight or what. I don't fucking know. I'm not the professional in that arena. But I know that the oil company probably shouldn't tell me as an average consumer, hey, pick which oil should go in your truck. I mean, I'm using that as an example. But
here, I just want to backtrack because there's an interesting phenomenon with all the tribalism that has gone on in fitness. And now we can see with the kind of the movement in the medical privatized medical influencer type of situation or whatever you want to call it, is that these tribes are forming, much like how the tribes formed in fitness, where it's like, I'm a kettlebell guy, I'm a CrossFit guy, I'm a low carb guy, I'm a HIIT, like all that stuff. And I think a great litmus test for the end user is this. If they can point to their preferred method as the end all be all, it can do everything for everyone anytime, that should be a red flag. I'd rather that person saying, I'm such a staunch kettlebell guy, but you know what would really help you is something that I don't do. That shows me that guy knows exactly what his tool does and does not. And that is the indicator of expertise. Like if you were a doctor in a hospital and you say, hey, what you came in for isn't what it is. You have to go see that guy. Right. Meaning you refer out. Meaning that you can't adequately help that individual based on your skills, your knowledge, and your expertise. Which
is an insanely bad brush fire currently in the med spa hormone replacement world. And I'm warning people, trust me or not, it's up to you. You're the listener. You don't have to. There's a lot of it happening where people are not in their lane, right? and proper education and background in terms of medical care needs to be appropriately taken. So if you walk into anywhere and their specialty is not hormone replacement, it is not longevity medicine, I would probably leave, because at the end of the day, you need somebody who can cater the care to you. Everybody's an individual. Everybody needs something different, but there's a ton of underqualified in terms of experiential, data-driven, education-driven, background-driven
reps.
Right.
How many reps have these guys got?
So I do age management medicine every single day. All
you do.
I do is read labs all day long for 10 to 12 hours, and I fucking love it. And the amount of information is insane, because as a resident, I used to walk through people's charts and see labs, and it meant like bang, 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 whatever. Oh, that number's off. Add this, add this. But there was no true life consequence in my mind. Now when I see somebody and explain their labs to them, the beauty of it is I don't tell you like, oh, you need vitamin D. I tell you, hey, this level's low, and here's the consequence. Direct consequence. Here's what we should do to change it. Two totally different interactions, right? One is you have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just giving you something to replace it. You have no education. You have no power to change it unless you have me. The second version, my version, is here's why we need to change it. I'm going to help you change it. Here's the supplement, but eventually the power should be in your hands to know why you should change it. And that to me is like, I think the beauty of what we do.
Well, it goes back, and this is for the end user.
Yeah.
If a person walked into a restaurant,
yeah,
and you look up on the menu and it goes, we do calzones, we do egg rolls, we do burritos, we do cheeseburgers and pizza.
Yeah.
The first question you should ask yourself is, well, they can't do anything that good,
right,
if they can do all of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like when you walk into a doctor's office or a med spa and they do Botox,
yeah,
this, that, and they also do hormone replacement, that should tell me or tell that individual to run.
Yeah.
Because they don't have enough, not that they can't,
right,
it's that they don't.
Yeah.
And that their practice isn't set up as such to have someone who is specialized in the role of an age management professional.
And at the end of the day, it's the same as every industry, right? McDonald's, there are chefs serving beef, right? Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, there are chefs serving beef. Two very different versions of beef, two very different versions of how it's cooked, two very different versions of how it's presented to you, delivery, fulfillment, who brings it to you, the environment you're in, the cost of it. But at the end of the day, the value is, do you really like a really good steak that's cooked well, how you want it, directly for you, or do you want what everybody else is getting? And that's that. Question.
Yep.
Fan mail.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get to it a little bit. So let me
good on time, Marcus? You've been really quiet today.
Yeah,
man.
what's your deal, man?
Doing.
He just went through a big...
Yeah, he trained. We had a pump
pod.
Yep.
Went through a big training session.
Yep.
Recently had a little... Did you have a breakup or something?
Something like that.
He's free.
Man,
He's
I'm
single.
sorry.
Ladies, he's good looking too. He really is. He's young, very young. So I have a question or topic you may want to consider. And for me personally, I would like to understand this. Topic is cheat days. Is caloric intake an unending aggregate measure? Maybe this seems obvious or too simple, but for example, if you're in a 500 calorie deficit for 6 days and eat 3,000 surplus on day 7, have you nullified the 6 good days? Does the body work that simply? Is the day 8 result of the cheat day water retention, or does the body add tissue that quickly? So all right, let's start with this because it's a bunch.
Yeah, it's a good question though.
Yeah, it's a very good question. What is in your mind, what does cheat day even mean? Because I think we need to define cheat day. What would you say as cheat day definition?
I don't really like to use that term. I understand it completely, but a cheat day, there is a connotation that like you're getting out of prison, right. Meaning you don't like what you're doing, you don't enjoy it necessarily, and therefore you need to pursue a level of escapism and cheat on it. You know what I mean? Like
yep.
It just goes back to a relationship. Like imagine if you were in Marcus's relationship and he's like, hey, I need a cheat day to keep our relationship going.
Right.
There's something inherently wrong with that. Now, I'm not saying that if it was a wedding or a birthday party or whatever, like,
like you want to go for,
you accidentally cheated.
He's young.
On your diet. But for the most part,
Girls are blowing him up already. His phone just went off.
for the most part, a cheat day means that like you want to get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
Which again, I can see the point. I don't employ them in like what I do with people.
Yeah, and I would say it's not even really cheating. Like you're just adding more macros. So you're just eating more. I don't know why it's called cheating. But
well, here's the other thing. It is the typical response to a cheat day is shame, embarrassment. So if we didn't call it cheat day, do all those other emotional responses occur?
No,
probably not.
And then if you do that, so we'll take 7-day block, whatever.
Yeah, 7 days.
The 3,000 calorie thing, you undereat it, and then day 7 you blow it out with 3,000 extra. So you eat 6,000. What does that do to your week availability of calories? And from your comment, I'll add a little something at the end too.
Well, I like the idea of looking at things in week. You know, that's what we do. That's what we practice. That's what our system's about. Because your metabolic system is very complex. Right. Like it's not linear. It's not a number. You can eat, and there's going to be some measurement issues, precision, accuracy of how much food. How are you tracking all these things matter. So if we could kind of ballpark it over a week or 2 weeks or whatever time frame, not a day, but let's just say 7 days, we have a pretty good understanding of how much food you're taking in based on your general level of activity, your exercise, the type of exercise, your sleep, your hydration status, all these other features that do lend itself to figuring out how many calories you need or need for certain outcomes. So if you have, let's just say 2,000 calories to eat every day as baseline, meaning 14,000 calories a week is what you're allotted. That's your budget. 14,000 calories. And you eat 1,000 calories a day for 6 days, so that's 6,000 calories, and then eat 8,000 calories on Sunday, you're at baseline. Now, depending on when you look at your data, like when you weigh in, you will see probably generally a negative trend in weight for 6 days, and then an enormous spike. But if you averaged all those out, it probably is exactly if you ate the same thing every day. Minus, plus or minus, like the lag in your body getting rid of
water,
because there is also a food quality and food quantity discussion that needs to be had too. So if you're eating like chicken and broccoli for 6 days and then you eat pizza and wings, your body's gonna be like, well, what the fuck? Right? And it's gonna take a little longer to because of sodium and all these other compounds, whatever. But for the most part, that's how your body works. It's no different than a P&L in your business. You have a budget, like you spend X amount of dollars on labor, on rent, and whatever, and your profit or revenue stream is X. If your costs of doing business go up, you will have less money. That's it.
Same thing.
Like it's the same thing.
It's in and outs. And then the hard part about that question to answer truly is that there's so many variables in metabolism. And I don't know why the world still thinks like, oh, your metabolism's fixed. It's not.
No.
I'll argue all day with anybody. Your metabolism changes wildly, minute to minute. And if you don't believe that, you sleep and you're awake during the day. If you don't believe your metabolisms are different during sleeping and awake, then we can't talk. So now that we know metabolisms change drastically, in the matter of that week, there's a lot of things that could have changed. So that question has to be done in a vacuum. And then in a vacuum, 100% the laws of thermodynamics apply, without a doubt. So I think exactly what you said is how people should approach it. Because give or take a couple variables, you're probably week to week going to be doing kind of the same thing. The law of averages usually work relative to the individual.
Correct.
But what you do on a day-to-day basis is not what I do, which is why medicine should be based on the individual, the same with the training, because we're all different. But in that week, I think the right response is exactly what you said. You got to balance it out. And chemically, there are markers in blood that go up and down, up and down, up and down. And people panic because there's red and it's too high or too low. But then there are the background markers that are more chronic related. And those support the theory that something's going on with the acute numbers kind of being the analysis at T0. And I see it every day in situations like that, right? Like cholesterol day to day might look crazy, but the baseline is better. And it holds true to the caloric intake too.
And the funny thing about it, I think a lot of people consider metabolism is literally it's tied to either my food or exercise. And that's usually the general consensus of what a metabolism is. But I don't know anyone who knows how much energy, meaning how many calories their heart uses a day.
Yeah.
Right? Like your metabolism is all energy through in a day. So your lungs, your brain,
everything,
your eye movement, like all these things matter.
Digesting food.
There's a cost of doing business on being alive.
Yeah.
That it's really hard to account for with great precision, especially over decades.
Right.
But that's why we can approximate some of these needs and demands and goals and create congruency in someone's life by having some of this data on the regular.
Yeah. Now, part of that question, and in exercise world, there's plenty of these people too, but the quote unquote biohacking, which I hate that word, as I've said before, I'm not a biohack. But in the biohacking world, there's a lot of people that kind of get followed blindly, right? So we get questions, should I follow this person blindly? Huberman, Mark Hyman, Peter Attia, all these people. And I'm going to say this. I will never, ever trash anybody's opinion. I don't have it in me because if they have an opinion, they have an opinion. I don't have to listen to it. But I will say you got to just be weary, like we've always been talking about, of extremes, right? And then you got to look at the person presenting it to you and what they're doing. For instance, I think the coolest part about what we do, right, is like I ride a bike to work. I drive, you have kids, I've got kids. We get up, we go, like we do the normal shit. I'm not flying around in a private jet telling you to eat healthy food and I'm like getting served, specialty grapes grown on an organic. Like I'm in the same world you guys are in. And this is unedited, right? So my call is just be weary of who you're listening to in the medical world. Really analyze it, and don't analyze it in a scientific way where it's like, I don't agree with cold plunge because of the thermodynamics. No, look at it just as logic. Like, is this guy really benefiting by selling tons of cold plunges? And he might not be. And then you'll figure out, oh, he's telling me cold plunge is good. Like we said it. If you want a cold plunge, great.
Yeah. There's benefit.
There's benefit. Just do it the right way. You don't do it every day. You don't do it after work. Like use it the right way. What about in your industry? I mean, it's got to be rampant because you don't really need letters after your name to like prescribe exercise or nutrition. It's really intense, wild west.
Yeah, still to this day. And like to that point of you don't need initials after your name, but then people create initials after they like they're like, if I wanted the RTS designation after my name, I could create a course, create a certification, have it approved by a governing body and be like, I am RTS certified, which means nothing to anyone. Yeah. Except if I want to tout, like if I want to prop myself up and say I am X better than someone else because I possess this information, this proprietary information that I created. Yeah. Like, I mean, but that is the most the scariest part of our industry because there is very little regulation when it comes to that. So I'm going to throw a little tickler out there to the people, but behind the scenes, we are trying to work on like a score, a life score, a bio score, so that there might be one day where you're not judged on your chronologic age. You simply get a 0 to 10. You could be 80 and get an 8, or you could be 3 and get an 8, right? But if you have an 8, you're probably going to live to see the next day. If you get a 3, you're probably not. But there has to be some scale because aging currently is not a definable thing. It's purely relative to time, which time is a made-up substance, right? Like we don't know a second's a second, whatever. But at the end of the day, biologic metabolic age is a totally different substance. How much time? We're pretty much done, right? Where are we at?
We're like 35 minutes.
35 minutes. All right. Let's do one more statistic I want to talk about. In the 1990s, menopausal and postmenopausal women, 27% of them were on hormone replacement, and they were feeling good. WHI came out 2002. We currently have 5% of women on hormone replacement that are menopausal. I don't really know, without getting like truly deep down irritated, what to comment on. But I will say this, and it bothers me. At no point in time have I ever said anything aside from like, we want to help women feel better. Women come in my office every day frustrated with their PCP, with their OBGYN. That's not listening to them. I listen, I then treat. The treatment plan involves hormones. Their OBs fight me on it. They question it, they stop it, they go back to feeling not so well. I don't really know how to stop that, aside from I keep asking. I'd love to talk with the local OBs who are still convinced hormones cause cancer, because I just don't understand that comment. But what do you think our solve is for that age group, for that demographic of women? How do we get them as men, right? Because we're on a podcast right now as guys. And a lot of women are like, well, you don't know how we, but I'm trying to embrace women's health. Like, I don't know why I get yelled at about it so much. But at the end of the day, how did you do that? Because your gym is 50-50, right? Yeah. The training end of being here is a 50-50 male-female split. So what was the right approach? And my approach, I'm about 50-50, right? Maybe 60-40 guy women, but how do the women then believe that we really are fighting for you? I promise you, like, my whole goal is to get menopausal women feeling well. And if I know the OBs right now are angry about it, I know we're making a good change, but I just don't know why they're mad about it.
The first thing I think about is, what is the constraint of what we're looking to solve for? And right now it is the overarching idea that hormones is bad, being perpetuated by other medical professionals.
Yeah.
That won't change. That influence, that message won't change until those people realize that they should probably be looking at different data. They should be looking at research differently. And they should actually be willing to talk about best practices as it pertains to their client.
Right.
It's also a matter of territorialism, where they have to say, just like we talked about before, when do you know how to refer?
Right.
And if it is out of their, I don't know, job description or practice scope, then they should be very willing to talk to someone who can do that, so that they can just do what they do. Like, if they're an OB that specializes in X and hormone isn't part of that, but they appreciate and understand that it could help them, then they should be, they're the ones that have to initiate this change.
Yeah. I mean, some of them, like, I don't try to tell these women like the OBs are missing the boat. They come and they say, hey, I just don't feel good. And then we show them where they're missing. And it's not really the job description, like you said, of the OB. They deliver babies, they take care of your uterus, they take care of your ovaries. Then you get to menopause, and traditionally they just let you be.
Yeah.
That's just what it was. So I don't know why they're pissed that somebody's like, hey, let's stop doing that. Let's try this. They're getting the results, and now they're like, no, don't do that. It's crazy. Like, I have a woman who actually just stopped coming because she's like, my OB really won't take care of me anymore. Think about that statement, because she started testosterone therapy. Now, she'll be back. Guaranteed she'll be back, because her life, explainably by details of what she told me, felt great. But this fear, so she's waiting, right? But I don't know why anyone would do that. Like, there's no benefit in creating doubt of something that's helping and not harming, and that you don't offer, right? It would be like us. We don't offer Pilates. But if somebody goes to Pilates and comes here and is like, hey, I did some Pilates, we'd be like, no, fuck, that's horrific.
Yeah.
We've always said, yeah, go. We just talked about it.
Yeah.
If it's helping you, embrace it. Like, why do these OBs not want to come here and be like, hey, man, this is awesome. We're tag teaming these clients. They're feeling better. I got the hospital shit. I'll go deliver my babies. Thanks for helping out in the back end. Like, why would you not do that? But it is what it is. So let's get to some Never Have I Ever. What do you think? Marcus? Sorry, I got a little... It's cranked up. By the way, none of this is edited, right? And I think we're going to stick to that, because part of what you should see is the raw version of this. Yeah. Anybody can edit anything. right? I can flex and make it look good with lighting, whatever. You're looking at us and our opinions, and I think it's a big deal.
Without the red lights. Where are the red lights?
And I remember growing up,
Yeah.
I always said to myself, like, if I ever ended up on a reality show or whatever the hell this is called, like, I want it to be me. We don't script our interactions. We write down topics, but we're not like, oh, you're going to laugh at this.
Yeah,
Mike,
make sure
right?
you throw me a softball.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that.
No. This is raw. And I think everyone should know that.
Except for the games.
For the games. But here we go. Never have I ever seen one of my coworkers naked. I'm not answering.
Yeah.
Had an accident during my driving test. No. I passed the first time. By the way, some of my nephews were very smart. One of them didn't pass the first time.
I ran a red light my first time.
Oh, Marcus.
Come on, dude.
What happened?
I came to the stop and then, I don't know, I just decided.
Panicked?
To go, yeah. Just went.
Hey, guy, watch out. I'm about to kill you. Hurt myself sneezing.
Yeah. I've hurt my back.
I got a grundle cramp
Or a
on
neck.
sneezing. I couldn't-
Like,
Have you had a
I'm
grundle
old.
cramp?
no.
I sneezed, my grundle cramped, and it was insane because you can't stretch it out. And I can't do a
Not with
split.
that attitude.
Not with that attitude. Knocked a tooth out from drunken debauchery. No.
I've broken a lot of teeth when I was not sober.
Yeah, but opening bottles or something.
Various things.
Yeah. Voluntarily. Bought a dog to increase my chances of meeting the opposite sex.
No.
I usually
I got a cat to get a.
Yeah. I got a pit bull in
So-
college, so nobody would fucking come in my room. Done the walk of shame. I'm proud everywhere I go.
Shame? For what?
I don't even know what shame is.
Cheat day?
Flirted with my best friend's partner? No, I get harassed by her every fucking day.
That's true.
How about that? I felt like I'm getting beat up by her. Talk shit about my boss over text at work. Well, can't do that anymore.
I talk shit about myself
all
all the time.
day. Yeah, fuck me. Thrown up in a taxi?
No.
Nope.
Oh,
In a taxi?
how
No.
dare you? All over the plexiglass.
Oh.
Yeah, he was pissed. I was fast still. Kicked someone out of my wedding. Just myself. Imagined having children with a particular celebrity.
No. What? That's not why you have celebrity
But one of the
thoughts. Like,
But a celebrity emailed me once and was like, "Hey, I'm having thoughts about sex with Marcus." Did you know that?
Yeah, it's happened a few times.
A couple times. Last one. Been reprimanded by hotel security. Please.
no comment.
Hundreds of times. God bless. Well, hope you guys enjoyed. Enjoy the 4th. Enjoy the barbecues. Hopefully you get a lot of, what are they called? Glizzies?
I don't know. What the hell's that?
I'm fucking super.
I just hope everyone
Isn't that
has.
what it is? Marcus, come on.
Yeah, it's a glizzy.
A glizzy with some rel.
Oh, jeez.
A dad joke.
I just want everyone to walk out of the weekend with the same amount of fingers that they walked
Yeah,
into the
please.
weekend with.
Enjoy the fireworks. See you guys next week. That was fun.